Hi, this is Matthew Robert Payne. This is the book He's Redeeming Love. This is chapter 96, and this chapter is called Produce the Prophetic Supernatural Experience. Well, as I shared before, I got the idea, first of all, to make a series of videos that was going to make up a book on the gift of prophecy and the office of a prophet. I certainly had 3 or 4 years ago come into the office of prophet, so that it takes sometimes 10 to 15 years with the gift of prophecy for God to work in your life and develop you into a position where you can actually take up office and be recognized as a prophet and not just a person who prophesies. And I was in the office of prophet. I understood the elementary basics of what it took to be a prophet, and so I did a series of videos like I discussed before on the gift of prophecy and how the gift of prophecy operates and what the life of a prophet really entails. It was an exciting book. I was glad to write the book. I had a friend on Facebook that I knew that was a prophet also, and I encouraged her and asked her if she'd like to be a co-writer of the book. I'd had the book transcribed on video and was getting my parts that had been transcribed professionally edited so that they read better and looked better. And I asked her if she could read each of the chapters that I gave her, and could she add in her own words some information about the subject of each chapter. And so she did that. She actually chose a verse to start each chapter with, and so we had each chapter starting with a verse, and then we had my explanation of the chapter, and then we had her explanation of the chapter. It was a well worked book. It was an exciting book to work on, and certainly my videos were only part of the book now, and a good half of the book was what Laurie Hicks had produced. And if you're interested in the gift of prophecy and you think that you'd like to minister in the gift of prophecy, it's a very handy book to read. And if you think that you're watching this or you're reading this and you feel that you're called to be a prophet, then the book is a very simple book about the life of a prophet and what the calling entails and what sort of things you can expect to go through in the life that you need to live to become a prophet and minister as a prophet for the Lord. I was happy with the way that the book came together with my part and Laurie's part, and I was happy with the way the book read. I'm essentially a simple person. I think that you can tell by the way I explain myself and the way I share things that I'm pretty simple to understand, and I share things pretty simply. I am not impressed when people write really dry and theological books. I certainly don't get past a few chapters in a book, and sometimes get very disappointed in a book when I come across a book that's very theological and dry, and it's a waste of money, and I haven't got a lot of money to waste on a book. And so I told myself if I ever wrote a book, I'd write it simply so a simple person could understand, and I'm pretty simple myself, and so if I can understand something, and even if it's a complex subject, if I can understand it, then I know that I can explain it simply, and if I can understand it, then I can explain it simply and let other people understand it. Some people who read my books say that although my explanations are quite simple, that they're also very deep and profound, and that's a very good compliment and something that makes me really happy to hear feedback from people saying that something I've written or something I've produced is deep and profound. I think it's a little bit like Jesus. When he spoke his parables on earth, he spoke simple stories that even children can basically understand the stories, and they're entertaining stories in the Bible, but they're very deep and they're very rich and they're very profound, and there's many levels to the parables of Jesus, and they're very complex to understand. And so my first book I wrote was the parables of the first book I produced was the Prophetic Supernatural Experience. It was the first lot of videos I produced, but my friend Phil, who was paying for the first book to be produced, didn't want the Prophetic Supernatural Experience to be produced with his money. He wanted the Parables book to be produced, and so I produced the Parables book, and it was a very simple book, but rich and profound, and it's got 28 reviews on Amazon now, and people are quite impressed with it, and I'm very impressed with it. It's a bestseller for me. It sells very well for me, and I'm very happy with it. But the second book I produced with Laurie was the Prophetic Supernatural Experience, and that doesn't sell as well as the Parables book, but it's a very good book. I think Amazon Kindle allows you to make your book free for 5 days every 90 days, and the Prophetic Supernatural Experience, I think, has been downloaded by about 1,000 people since December last year, and so I think it's gone, maybe it might only be about 700, but that's 700 people who are interested in the gift of prophecy or interested in becoming a prophet, who've got a very simple and easy to understand book about the gifts of prophecy and the office of prophet. So I've said it a few times before that I like things simple, and I found that the book was a very good book for what it was. When I entered the realm of prophecy, when I started to realize that I had the gift of prophecy in my life, and I wanted to learn about the gifts of prophecy, it wasn't very easy for me to find a simple book about the 3 gifts of prophecy, and so I found a bit of information here and a bit of information there. I had to piece things together from a number of sources, so I essentially wrote the book so that I could have a simple book on the gift of prophecy and the office of prophet. There's some good people out there that are very experienced. James Gold is very experienced, and there's another author who I can't remember his name, and they're a lot better writers on the prophetic, and they've got a lot better books on the prophetic, but I find even some authors can be a little bit too complex and a bit too smart, and I find that, like I've said before, that I'm simple, and if I can't understand it, I can't get my head around it, well then I don't really like it. And so even the people who are a lot more experienced than me and a lot more mature and have been in the prophetic business for 30 or 40 years, even their books aren't meeting the need I believe the Prophetic Supernatural Experience is meeting. God bless.